Hello. Which one of us are you?
Hello and welcome to the Nerd Card, and today we're going to be taking a look at Loki, episodes 4 through 6. This is part 2.
Part 2.
Of our 2-part series on Loki.
Which is now not just a limited series, but a regular series, apparently.
Yes, we're not only getting a part 2, we're getting a season 2. Yes, that was the after credits sequence there.
Yep.
Now, what we're looking at is...
Before we go any further, River...
Spoilers.
Lots and lots of spoilers. We're going to talk about everything that happened. And we start out with Loki and Sylvie getting rescued from their apocalypse.
Yeah.
Which is kind of neat.
Yeah. I mean, if we ever have an apocalypse, getting rescued is probably a good thing.
Yeah, hard to have a show without them.
Yeah. I mean, the show is called Loki.
Yes, for sure. And that's 2 Lokis that we definitely want to see more of.
Absolutely.
So they do get rescued, but of course they're directly into some deep water initially.
Yep.
As we move forward through the series, what we're seeing is Mobius kind of rebelling.
Well, I mean, he's believing what Loki is telling him, which he doesn't want to believe what Loki is telling him, because Loki is a habitual line-stepper.
Charlie Murphy!
He is.
And so,
what a perfect description.
So Loki is, you always expect everything Loki says to be Dren, to use a Farscape term, quite frankly. It's not going to be true. But sure. Mobius just wants to believe. He wants to believe in him, and ultimately he's proven right. Loki becomes a changed man because he falls in love with himself. And it changes him.
I don't think that's a change for Loki. Loki
it breeds into,
been in love with
it breeds
himself.
right into his character, right? If
Certainly.
Marvel is going to do that with anybody with a variant of falling in love with a version of themselves, it's Loki. He's a total narcissist.
It's always going to be Loki.
Of course he's going to fall in love with himself if he falls in love with anyone.
Of course.
And that changes him, and he wants to be better. And he is, the mission that they're on, he's bonding with Sylvie, and, he's really sincere, and Mobius takes him at his word. Mobius, I'm sorry, not Morbius, yes. Not a vampire. No. Mobius takes him at his word.
And not a Morpheus either.
And not a Morpheus either. You can offer him a red pill or a blue pill.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
But, he takes him at his word and then, gets into trouble himself.
Right, yes, of course. And it gets him shredded.
Yeah, joins the crew.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
That was a moment, though, when it first happened, right? And you didn't know of what happened, right? When you got pruned, you're like, what?
Yeah.
He's on the line. What'd you do?
He's on the line.
And then he was gone, and I'm like, man, I hope he's not really gone.
Well, and you hope that, gigantic guest star, Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
And you're going to use him for 4 episodes and then prune him?
Right.
No, of course. You expect to see him back.
And thank God he was.
Yeah, and thank God he was.
And he comes back and joins the crew, and then they, of course, prove out what we both postulated in our first episode on this, is that the timekeepers were shenanigans.
Yeah, nothing.
They
Robots.
weren't real. They were fake. They were essentially created by the big bad reveal for Phase 4. Which is huge. Kang the Conqueror.
You want to talk about a Thanos-level villain.
Oh, more than Thanos level.
He's way above that.
The whole series, the more you look back on it, is the whole time Marvel was subconsciously telling you, this dude's way better than Thanos.
This is wild.
Thanos was after Infinity Stones that are meaningless to Kang. He's like, pfft. junk.
Who cares?
You know, Thanos changed the reality of one timeline. Kang controls all the timelines.
I don't want one position, I want all positions.
Right. And, well, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, Kang is... Well, I'm sorry. He Who Remains.
She's still calling me that. Creepy. Right. I like it.
Well, a variant of Kang.
A variant of Kang
Right.
is disposed of.
Yep.
And that opens up the gateway.
For the other variants of Kang to come on marching through. Because He Who Remains was the one who basically won the Great Kang War, is what I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
And
well, that's a good word, a good term for it.
And
it really
so
is.
now that Sylvie has dispatched him to death, she didn't send him to the end of the universe where they were. She stuck a sword in him.
Right.
You know,
he was not
he
pruned.
done.
Yeah.
Not gonna work here anymore anyway.
He was pruned from life.
Yeah.
You know, now that he's gone, he warned them. He said, I'm the only other one keeping the other Kangs at bay, and some of them are a lot less nice than I am.
Oh, sure.
And that's what we're going to find. We're going to get the Kang the Conqueror version. Obviously, it's going to come into Marvel in Phase 4 and be the big bad.
Of course. Actually already been confirmed for Ant-Man
Quantumania, yeah. The same actor.
Yes.
Which will be great. And you can actually see, I mean, even in the parts where you first meet him at the end of the world in his broke down mansion, you see the outfit kind of resembles the Kang the Conqueror outfit.
Sure.
And then at the end, the big reveal at the end that Loki, when he gets pushed through the time door, is in a different part of the multiverse.
Where Mobius doesn't even know him.
Mobius doesn't know who he is, and the statue is more of a Kang the Conqueror kind of statue.
Yes, definitely.
At the TVA.
Definitely.
So, the first time I watched this episode twice before we filmed, and the first time I watched episode 6, I was underwhelmed. And then I watched it again, paid closer attention, because there's a lot really, when He Who Remains, Kang, is speaking to Loki and Sylvie, there's a lot to unpack there. I actually rewound it several times to really pay attention to all of his words. He's talking about he's a human scientist from Earth from the 31st century, and to him that was eons ago.
Right.
And eon is an astronomical term for a billion years. And people use it regularly, but that's the astronomical term, is a billion years.
It's a heck of a long time.
So he's been doing this for billions of years. And to him, it was eons ago that they made the discovery in the 31st century, right? Which is, 10,000 years ahead of us, where we currently live.
Right. So
give or
dude's
take.
been around a minute.
He's been around a minute. And so our heroes in Phase 4, which this is set up, this has been beautiful. This is beautiful for Marvel. Not only is it set up their Phase 4, big bad, the story.
Yep.
It also incorporates their Fox properties gloriously.
Easily, as a matter of fact. Yes.
Because as they're going through, you could see the very end of episode 6, you see all the different threads of time
Everything's
expanding
branching out.
everywhere.
Yep.
Around the broke down palace where they were, different movie. Right. And then you see Mobius in the command center watching all the different, with the Hunter watching all the different time streams now start branching off.
Sure.
So this is going to lead right into the Phase 4 movies like Quantumania,
It's the
like
multiverse.
Multiverse of Madness,
Yeah.
like Far From Home or No Way Home.
No Way Home, yeah.
Shang-Chi. So another thing that I was reading a story post about this is that in that trailer for Shang-Chi, one of our What's New in Nerds, we postulated, hey, that looks like Wong. It is Wong.
You're invited to my wedding.
Yeah.
Fighting it. And in fact, that Abomination is played by Tim Roth.
Forget it. It's too risky. I'm through doing that shit.
Oh,
From
really?
the very first Incredible Hulk movie
See,
in
that I
the
did not
MCU. So, again, they're tying it all together, right? You're going to have your Tobey Maguire. You're going to have your Andrew Garfield. You're going to have Jamie Foxx as Electro.
Sure.
You're going to have all these guys in the Spider-Man movies.
Well, Alfred Molina. Doc Ock, yep.
I bet you they gotten... I'm going to tell you, it's not out there. I will bet you $1 right now, Phil.
Yeah.
We're going to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in one of these movies.
He's been, it's actually been talked about quite frequently.
He's
recently.
always said he would do it. He would come back and play the part for an Avengers type movie.
Sure.
Well, guess what, Hugh?
It's not an Avengers type movie.
It's an Avengers movie.
It's an Avengers movie.
Go fuck yourself.
I absolutely think that'll be the case,
Yeah.
and I hope it's the case. But I also hope
Because they
that
asked Patrick Stewart to do a cameo,
Sure.
right, in a smaller role for the Multiverse of Madness, and he declined because it wasn't going to be a recurring. He said if it was going to be like a longer term thing, then maybe he would do it. But
I mean, that would be a great way to tie it all in too.
Yeah.
Is by saying, you know, in the Dark Phoenix, Xavier kills everybody. But if you know, maybe he just sent him to a different multiverse.
yeah.
And that could be a great way to bring the X-Men in.
You mean the third X-Men movie, not Dark
Yeah,
Phoenix?
yeah. I'm sorry, Apocalypse. Is
The
it
Last
Apocalypse?
Stand. X-Men 3.
Whatever.
Dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizards.
Anyway, those are... See, that's just it. They need the MCU to figure all that crap out
There
because
was Apocalypse after
they royally screwed it.
Days of Futures Past, and then Dark Phoenix is after Apocalypse.
it's so much crap. Anyway, that's what they
Well,
need.
some of them are good.
They need to fix all of
Well,
that.
and that's really, again, we postulated in our first, not to pat ourselves on the back, but we postulated in our first episode that, you know, this series' whole goal was to really set up Phase 4, which I think is what it did.
Yeah, I completely agree. And with the multiverse being what it is and breaking down because of the death of He Who Remains, I mean, there are so many possibilities. You can finally bring in mutants. You can do anything you want from any of the past movies and bring them right into the MCU. It really brilliantly done.
It is really brilliantly done, you know, and Tom Hiddleston did a great job as Loki, as he has done from day one.
And he's on record as saying that he will play Loki until he dies.
Which is great, because Chris Hemsworth loves being Thor, right?
Yes.
And having the two of them together in these movies going forward for years to come is a boon for Marvel and a boon for the fans.
Without a doubt. It really is.
And, you know, I'll be excited to see what happens in Loki Season 2. Obviously, it'll be a continuation in the multiverse storyline, as, you know, like we just talked about a couple minutes ago. He goes back to a TVA where Mobius doesn't know who he is, and, well, there's a statue of Kang, essentially.
Right.
Where the Timekeeper statues were.
But there's so many cool things you can do with that, too. I mean, you can bring Loki in, and you can have Season 2 going simultaneously with different movies within the MCU. And you can have Loki going
in every single movie.
You can literally have him in every single movie.
Hiddleston maybe got a home run check here. Maybe that's what happened.
That could very well happen.
Because he could very well be cast in every single one of those movies with a multiverse.
Absolutely.
Because if he's doing stuff with the TVA, you know, or trying to fight the TVA from the inside, and all these different...
He's going to be in each and every one of the scenarios that happen.
Going forward in time, to view alternate futures, to see all the possible outcomes of the coming conflict.
Or at least he has the potential to be.
He absolutely has the potential to be.
Which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It is. You know, we would digress to not talk about episode 5, and we've largely talked about episode 6. But in episode 5, we had all the other Lokis. You had like the classic Loki.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
You had Alligator Loki. You had Little King Loki. You had the guy who looked like Thor Loki.
Yes.
And then you had
the guy who looked like Thor.
He
Loki.
did.
Yeah,
It's
a great description.
He looked like Loki as Thor.
He was carrying a hammer and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have, of course, President Loki, as he's being called, of all the other Lokis that came to the bomb shelter. And, you know, Throg was in the jar.
Throg was in there. Really cool. My favorite of those is classic Loki.
Yeah.
Because classic Loki is played by an actor that's been in so many other things.
Absolutely.
In the most recent edition of Star Wars Episode 9, he was in that. He's a villain in Doctor Who. The guy plays a villain so well, and to see him playing a silly character was just... It was so great for me. When I saw him on, you know, I did the Leo thing. You know, jumped up and like pointed at the screen.
Meme, sure.
Yeah, like, oh, that guy.
Yeah, and it was that the 5th episode was really great.
It really was.
At the time when I watched the 5th episode, I'm like, all right, this is the best episode of the series so far.
Yeah, well, and I think,
and it still might be.
I think it still is. Yeah.
You know, the Loki really, that's where you had, any character, anytime you write anything, as people who are writers are big into storytelling, the story, as Kang tells us in the 6th episode, can end until that character goes through his big change. And
correct.
Loki went through his big change in episode 5.
Well, he really did. And that's what we're seeing for sure in this first season of Loki. We're seeing Loki transform into the Loki that we already know.
Right.
Because as we stated in the first episode, he wasn't.
No.
He's the Loki that just got beat up by the Hulk. But
Puny
he grows in that same arc, so he's the Loki that we know and love.
Yeah.
And that's really cool to see. Despite the experience, despite the journey, he ends up in the same place.
Well, and it's again, I'm that same wavelength. It's good to see that that quality is still there and still evolves, and we still get that Loki in the end, even though it was
Certainly.
a different path. It was still in him. He still did it, and Sylvie was really the catalyst to that.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And hopefully we'll see more of Sylvie. I think we will.
I would hope so. You don't introduce a character like, well, Loki, and not keep him around.
Well, I mean, she's going to be one of the variants of Loki hanging around in the multiverse of madness.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, we're going to have 3 Spider-Men at one time on the screen, which is going to be awesome.
Well, we hope, and yes, we really think so. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. I'm willing it to happen. But all in all, I mean, I think Loki series did its job.
I would completely
It was
agree.
very entertaining. I'm looking forward to to season 2.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
It was very beyond that. I mean, just from a technical viewpoint, it was very, very well shot, very artistic.
Oh, certainly.
Very
yes.
beautiful cinematography, like more than the other shows, in my opinion.
Well, each locale has its own feel that is very unique, and they did that very well through color. Through the
color
use
was
of,
amazing.
Yeah.
In this show.
And through the use of music, I mean, everything went into that, making each location feel very, very unique and very, which it needed to be, of course, because they're going to
and it
very
felt
unique
Loki
locations. The
whole time.
It definitely felt Loki.
They did a really great job.
It felt like Mischief.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Loki should feel like.
He is the god of that.
He is.
And speaking of Mischief, Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes.
So Miss Minutes, was
yeah.
she just an embodiment of Kang, or is there more to Miss Minutes? Is she an AI for Kang? Are we going to see Miss Minutes again?
That's a great question, and one I feel that Miss Minutes is something different. It might be an AI. It might be something that gradually
they
grows
hinted
into
on
something
that.
else.
Loki's like, "Are you alive?" Well, kind of.
Right, kind of. Maybe it's something Kang created, and it's learning itself.
Yeah.
I will say that the internet was a buzz of the Miss Minutes jump scare in episode 6. It said, the time Loki turned into a horse show for 10 seconds. But again, and we talked about it in the first episode, Tara Strong does such a great job with Miss Minutes, and she's only using her voice, but she portrays that, she's kind of ominous in a lighthearted way, which is very difficult for an actor to pull off, but not Tara Strong, because she's a vet. She kills it.
Yeah, she does.
I really like the Miss Minutes character.
Yeah,
she
Miss Minutes is
job.
great. So hopefully has more of her story to be told, whether it's in season 2 of Loki or in the films in Phase 4. Probably be in season 2 of Loki.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I would expect. But I can't wait to see how this jumps off into Phase 4. I think we'll see some of it in Shang-Chi. Because something as powerful as the 10 rings would make sense. There'd be some kind of connection there.
Well,
and again, like we
it's
talked
going
about,
to be
the
on
Wong
Kang's
and
radar at the
Abomination.
very least.
Yeah, so we'll see that. And then the other movies coming out afterward. And it'll really be cool to see how they start just expanding on this concept.
Sure. And, one thing I've thought, all the way through Phase 3, my thought was, well, what do they do? Where do they go from here? They just, they had Thundercap. How do you top Thundercap? And Marvel's answering that question every single time
they just say, boom,
something.
Watch this, hold my beer.
Right.
And they do
exactly
it every
what
time.
they're doing.
Kevin Feige probably says, hold my beer 8 times a day. Hold my beer. Let's watch this.
Exactly.
And that's how I felt like with that revelation in this series. It just, of how, and again, when you think back on it, of how much bigger they're making Kang than Thanos.
Well, and he is.
And
so,
he is,
yeah.
and they're showing it, and it's just, I mean, he's Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah.
You know, Thanos is the Mad Titan. This guy's called the Conqueror. So, boom.
It's a bigger bad.
Yep.
And we can't wait to see more of it. Well, I believe we're going to wrap up Loki, unless you got anything else.
No.
Then we're wrapping it up. I'd like to remind you to like, subscribe, share, check us out, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, SoundCloud,
We out there.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We are out there. And with that, we will say,
What's on your nerd card?